Welcome once again. This is Impact Masters Media, and today is an amazing day. We have one of the greatest African alive.
Thank you.
This guest of mine is one gentleman you can speak about African diaspora. He has done it all, and his name is Teddy Orea.
Thank you.
Welcome, Teddy. How are you today?
I feel good to be at Africa Stocking headquarters.
Yes.
And I feel good that my voice is being recorded and heard after dawn.
Oh.
After dawn.
Yeah.
Rather, is it dusk or dawn? After dusk. After dusk. Because that's when the great African stories
Yes.
were often told of either hot porridge or hot boiling soup, as our grandmothers and grandfathers regaled us with stories of our greatness, that they were not copying or imitating anybody.
Yes.
But they were saying things the way they are, and they were contextualizing their environment.
Yes.
And not even dreaming about winter or snow, but dealing with our terrain, dealing with our vegetation, and dealing with our animals and our local heroes.
Yes.
And heroines.
Yes.
So I'm happy any day, any time to lend voice to these stories of a new and unfolding Africa as part and contributor of the new Africa.
Yes.
Of the African Renaissance, because we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Yes.
And Teddy is ready.
Amazing. So, from my African morals, you cannot speak about anyone without knowing who they are.
Yes.
And there's something good that we do at Impact Masters Media in all our channels, that we want to know who is the guest, not the official way of telling who we are, but who we are as humans. Like, where do you come from, who you are, how is your story?
Actually, I like that very much because, one, I've written a story of my life called Son of the Nile. But before that, lately people call me an author. But before that, other people call me a technology entrepreneur.
Yes.
Because I helped create Africa Stocking, SMS Leopard, and other companies, Africa 2.0. And but I really tell people that I'm a son of a woman. And this woman is Wilfrida Atieno Ombodo Waria Nyarseme Kobita Nyarseme Lango, which basically means my mother came from a place called Seme in Kisumu. And that's where beautiful, witty, and intelligent women like Lupita Amondi Nyong'o comes from. They're usually very Sylvette-shaped women, very intelligent. You can't play around with them because everything you say, they can answer back very quickly. They're very quick-witted.
Yes.
So I come from such a woman. And my mother was actually originally supposed to be a nun. But the father, because he mainly had four daughters, he said, I want I want the next generation of my family. So my grandfather, Boniface Ombodo, refused to sign the document which could have made my mother become a nun. So my mother did not become a nun. So I found that when I was writing my own book, Son of the Nile. Because in that book, I've written my entire genealogy, which is up to about 15 generations.
Yes.
And the reason why I did that is because I always, when I was in the US, one of my good friends, David Shiverick Smith, his grandfather was one of the people in the Pilgrim's Progress. And he was in the Mayflower. He came to the US with the Mayflower and was the only person in the boat, in the Mayflower, that had a degree from Cambridge University, which means he was a leader of the Pilgrim's Progress, and those were the builders and the founders of America.
Yes.
So I was deeply challenged by that, because he had up to almost 100 generations of his life. And I said, gosh, I don't even know up to my fourth. So during Corona, I researched, and through the help of my uncle, Mwalimu Huxley, Miri, I was able to discover my genealogy. So my challenge to my fellow Africans is that know yourself.
Know
and be
who you
true,
are.
Yeah, and be true to yourself rather than just putting shiny pictures on Instagram. Go to the village, even if you live in a hut. Take that picture of the hut. It's still your heritage, and that's who you are.
Yes.
Then you can build on from that. Don't be shy of who you are because you think people will laugh at you or you want to look good on Instagram or Facebook. Start from where you are.
Yes.
And that's why I started with my book. First, it was only 16 pages.
Yes.
But now it's 350 pages.
Wow.
So the smaller version of it, I call it I Am From, just to tell people where I'm from. And I wrote the first line of my book, I Am From book, goes like this. I am from fishermen,
Yes.
bone setters, tailors, and craftsmen. I am water. I am sun. I am wind. I am an African.
Yes.
From omena, tilapia, sweet potatoes, and ondelo. The reason why I say that I'm from fishermen is because my heritage, we came all the way from the north during the Great Migration, as far as Egypt, then to South Sudan,
Yes.
then to Uganda, then to Got Ramogi. Got Ramogi, then to a place called Ndere Island. Crossed Ndere Island to go to Osiri Masanga. Osiri Masanga, we went to Gemrai. Gemrai went to Okanawach. Okanawach, we went to Sondo. Sondo went to Nyabondo. And after that, we settled in Nyakach Kadianga.
What?
I'm the son of Kadianga, which is the last place we stopped. And I'm from the last Jokajok people. Jokajok 3. We were the last Luo country of the Luo nation to complete the Great Migration from the north.
Say
So so I take a lot of pride in that history.
Yes.
Knowing that
Yeah.
we are the last Luos to come into East Africa from the north.
Which year was this? Or do you have
This is like almost about 300 years ago.
what?
So we have been in Kenya for about 300 years.
300 years.
300 years, yes. And I have up to the 20th generation in my book, which means we really have been here for about 300 years.
Yeah,
so we've not. It's not long, but it's really.
It's long. 3 centuries.
Yes,
Long.
exactly. But at least I know that that's my route, and my goal and hope was to have as many Kenyans as possible to trace and track the genealogy. Even if they're not putting it up in a book, but they need to put it down on paper and do things like this podcast so that the whole world will know that we're not just a second generation kind of people,
Yes.
but we have other generations that have
Like
come
30
before
generations.
us. And believe it or not, these guys walked all the way from the ancient Egypt because a long time ago, there's no border between Egypt and Sudan. It was one territory,
Yes.
which was run by the pharaohs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Teddy, we have like summarized who you are, and we have gone deep, which is really nice. But where did you go to school? Like, how is your academic adventure? Because I know there's a story that is not published anymore, but
Yes.
you want to tell about that.
Yeah, which one?
Where did you start? And how was that journey?
These stories have actually not been published anywhere. But I had a distinct blessing of going to a Sisters of Charity kindergarten. Sisters of Charity was started by Mother Teresa. This was in Kariobangi. So we used to live in Buruburu Phase 1, which were housing estates created by the Commonwealth Development Fund, but by the government of Kenya. They were trying to make modern estates. And Buruburu those days was the crown jewel of estates in Nairobi.
So if you're
you're the upper middle class, you lived in Buruburu. Wow. So I was born 4 years after Buruburu was created, which means I was conceived in Buruburu, Phase 1, house number 150.
So
the house,
what?
yes, the house is still there until now. So I'm quite pleased about that.
Yes.
Because I went to Buruburu 1 primary school. Buruburu actually derives its name from bulbul, which are a type of black birds which like living or circling around swamps. Buruburu used to be a swamp. But one of the native Kikuyus or Agikoyo people who were living next to there could not say bulbul, saying buruburu. Buruburu.
And it became Buruburu.
So it became Buruburu. So that's how it derived its name. So I went to Buruburu 1 primary school. In my first year of school, which a lot of people don't know, that know me, I couldn't see the blackboard because I was short-sighted. But nobody knew I was short-sighted. So I could not get my ABCDs right. I could not also get my numbering 1 to 10 or 1 to 100.
Yes.
So I was failing my tests. And until my teacher, Mrs. Mwangi, God bless her wherever she is, she noticed I could not see the blackboard.
Yes.
So she moved me from behind and put me in front. So I used to be number 34 out of 36, something like that. Then in the end of second term, when she moved me in front, I became number 1 out of 36. What? And that never stopped until the end, until class 8.
And by the way, Teddy, now that you mentioned this, I think this is something that even in 2022 is still going on.
Yes.
Because one of the things that you will notice that even for me, I just got glasses in 2022.
Oh, wow.
Because I realized over time I'm short-sighted.
Yes.
And it's kind of fascinating because if I remember really well, there's the same story we have told that actually I can share.
And even I used to do like this to try and see. So that's when the teacher discovered that this guy is really short-sighted.
Yeah.
And that changed my fortunes. And then whenever you'd come to be number 1, they would always call you in front and give you a book as a gift.
Yes.
And the then member of parliament was called Maina Wanjigi, the father of Jimmy Wanjigi. So he'd always give me like 50 shillings or 100 bob whenever I become number 1. So and kids would clap for me in front and I would clap back.
Yes.
So needless to say, after that I got very good marks, others say very high marks. I went to Lenana School. After Lenana School, I went to Strathmore.
Wait a minute. Come on now.
Yes.
Come on. Just be kind.
Yes.
How like, that means if you went to Lenana School, you performed really well.
Extremely well.
And how was your journey in primary school? Like, how was your childhood? Because that's more or less childhood.
Actually, I'd like to share this. Something unusual happened to me because you'd actually asked me to define myself. I'm the 10th of 17 children from a polygamous East African family.
Yes.
My father was the late George Edward Warrior, was the first graphic designer or among the first graphic designers in Africa. Those days used to use something called Pascal. It was that was one of the computing languages at that time.
Yes.
And he worked for Print Park and then also Cool Graphics. So he worked in Dar es Salaam. But I was one of his kids who was born in Kenya. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I learned so much from my elder siblings. So one of my eldest brothers now, Dr. Dan Warrior, he lives in Switzerland.
Yes.
He's a reformed church pastor.
Yes.
And my other brother, sister who is my age, Joang Warrior, is a professor at Wits, University of Witwatersrand in South Africa.
Yes.
But what used to happen is that in Buruburu, I was very curious because I was the 10th of 17 children. So I used to look at the kids, 9 kids in front of me.
Yes.
And the 7 kids behind me. So I was like the bridge. So I had to swing between the two.
Yes.
So everybody used to tell me their things and issues or stories. So I became like an archivist without knowing. So that's no wonder when I was writing my Son of the Nile, it was very easy because I had the records of all these guys. In those days, I used to be fascinated with something called UFO, unidentified flying objects.
Yes,
I would always watch programs or read in the Almanac. We didn't have Google those days. So I'd always look at what are these all extraterrestrial things and crazy stuff. But one of my brothers, Victor, the late Victor Otieno,
yes,
Warrior, used to have a lot of books. And one of the books he used to have was called The Origin of the Human Species. It was talking about how humanity came from Homo habilis, Homo erectus, then Homo sapiens. So I was very curious about how we were formed. So biology became a very good subject to me and my nature and surrounding. And my mother was very keen of saying, you should not just call something by saying by what you don't know. Always call a spade a spade.
Yes.
Meaning, if you're deconstructing something, you don't need to say, I'm destroying it, but you need to say, I'm dismantling it. Because something that you're dismantling, you can put it back. But when you're destroying it, you'll break it and it's done.
Yes.
So I became very particular about paying attention to words.
Yes.
And the other day, somebody asked me, what would you like to be written on your epitaph? I said, I'd like you to write words. Because that's what has defined me.
Yes.
And between orators or warriors, or the person who always wins at the end of the day is the orator or the writer or the storyteller. And I'm glad that even right now at Africa's Talking, I'm serving as a chief storyteller.
Yes.
Because we want to tell these stories and we want to be honest and authentic, and we want to keep each other honest.
Yes.
And that's why when you ask me about my childhood, one of the strangest things that happened
Yes.
is that President Daniel Arap Moi
Yes.
invited me to be one of the children who sings to him at State House. I was only 9 years old.
What?
So you can imagine when you're 9 years old and President Moi sends Iveco buses. Iveco buses are green NYS buses made in Japan, which used to have orange seats.
Yes.
And President Moi precisely bought this for his Nyayo kids. There were 2,000 of them.
What?
So
Across the country?
2,000 kids across the country. Moi ordered that certain kids with certain characteristics be picked and be going to sing for him in all the public holidays. So I was one of them who were called the Nyayo kids. The late Okoth, who was the MP for Kibra, was one of them. But I was very fortunate at that age of 9 and 10. They selected me to be the leader of the 2,000 kids. So we used to go to the stadium to practice every Saturday.
Yes.
And we used to write on the Nyayo Stadium, 10 years of Nyayo era.
Yes.
And I was the one who was leading all the 2,000 kids. So we used to go with this beat. Te terere, te terere, te te te, te terere, te terere, te te te. Then we write 10 years of Nyayo era. And they even made it more spectacular by asking us to cover ourselves with white sheets.
I remember seeing that on TV.
Yes. So when we all lie down.
I don't know if you're performing there or something.
No, I was always there. So we always lie down and it looked like beautiful flamingos. Whenever we were bending, people would think they're flamingos because we were all dressed in white caps, white shirts, white shorts, white shoes, white socks. And then President Moi put us at Kenya Institute of Administration for 1 month to train.
Yes.
And he used to come there to play soccer with us. So I became very comfortable with authority in terms of, and even great leaders. And I'm not shy in front of anybody, including the Queen of England, because Moi built a lot of confidence in us. We became supremely self-confident because Moi would invite President Siad Barre, President IBB Babangida, and he was big and wearing military fatigue. So we saw all these guys, President Mugabe, the ambassador of the US then, Ambassador Aurelia Brazil. And then I was just only 10 years old.
And I'm like asking myself back at the back of my mind, you know, I've seen you perform. I've seen you, engage people.
Yes.
And one of the things that comes out clearly is that you take your place and own it.
Of course.
That's the way you are. There's steady.
Yes. Yeah, there's presence.
Yes,
so Arap Moi taught us the idea about presence. And I'll actually quote one of the American women I was dating.
Yes.
Dating.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll tell you this because it's important. She asked me, I asked her, what do you want from me? Because she was always very persistent. So one day she just looked at me straight in the eye and said, I want your presence. I want your presence.
Yes.
Patience and perpetuity.
That's
or permanency. She just said that, and gosh, I was like, am I ready to give all this? So whenever I enter, then when I ask her, what does presence mean? Okay, in American English, I ask her, what does this word presence mean?
Yes.
She told me it's the ability to feel a room, a heart, and a mind, and space at the same time.
What?
So in my life, I've been blessed with, if I'm in a room or if I'm in a place, I truly want to be present.
Yes.
And to have presence.
Yes.
Because I believe in my life's motto, which is Carpe Diem, seize the day and seize the moment. So I want to make sure, just like River Nile, which is the metaphor of my life, I may not come to that place again. So when I'm there, I want it to count.
Live fully.
And to live fully. Hence, my life's motto is seize the moment, seize the day.
Yes.
And in Latin, they call it Carpe Diem.
Carpe Diem. Now,
so I've not finished about the schools.
Yes, go ahead.
So I had the extraordinary opportunity to go to Strathmore for 6 months to do CPA. And I went to South Plains College in the US, and I went to Bard College, which used to be part of Columbia University. And I had an opportunity to go to Princeton,
yes,
where I was chosen as a Public Policy and International Affairs Fellow. And I have a standing invitation there to go anytime to study. And so what I wanted to do after completing some of my exploits in Africa, I wanted to go and complete a series of degrees at Princeton.
Teddy, you're not doing this justice because
Yes.
I want to hear that experience.
Yes.
If it's Lenana, you know,
I
it's
see.
still Lenana.
Oh, you want to? Oh, I see. I see. I see.
Because the reason for this,
Yes.
there's no hurry for this. You can do this until we are done.
Yes,
You'll never be done because you're still alive. But if it's Lenana, I'm sure there are kids out there,
Yes.
right, who would wish,
Yes.
whether it's like their dream
Yeah.
to be at Lenana.
Yes.
How is that life? How do you even survive? What is Lenana? When you go to Lenana,
Yeah.
what do you expect?
Yeah. So
They meet your expectation. How was that life? How did you survive? How do you make it to the next level?
excellent. That's
Yes.
a fantastic
Yes.
question. Lenana actually was one of the Maasai chieftains or leaders, the Oloibonis. Lenana is the third highest peak of Mount Kenya, which is a mountain we take a great deal of pride in.
Yes.
And Oloibon or Lenana was one of the leaders of the Maasai at the onset of the colonialists coming to Kenya. So he was strict into giving that land, which was 250 acres, to the then British governor
Yes.
in Kenya. I believe he was called Sir Michael Phillips.
Yes.
So he was given that land to build Lenana. But Lenana, for the purposes of the people who don't know, it's the only school probably in the world which was started in a state house.
Say that again. Say that again.
For all intents and purposes, for those who do not know,
Yes.
Lenana School
Yes.
is perhaps the only school in the world
Yes.
which was started at a state house.
That is Kenyan State House?
So Lenana was started in 1949
Yes.
at the Nairobi State House. Then it was called the Governor's House or something. But the first boarders of the school for maybe 1 or 2 years, they boarded and lived at State House.
Wait a minute.
So
I
that's-
know where Lenana School is.
Yes,
And I know where State House is.
exactly.
Which one moved?
Actually, the boys used to move from State House. They moved from State House
Yes.
to their current location in Karen, on Ngong Road.
Okay.
So, but they used to live in State House, Nairobi. In the State House that Mr. Kenyatta lives now.
Do you mean they were like boarding
They were boarding and eating there and living there and doing everything there.
with the president or with the governor?
The governor of the day, who was like the president of this colony.
Okay.
That's a historical
okay.
record.
You see now why we could not.
I'm happy. I didn't want to.
Because
I didn't
now-
want to go into my elitism, but there's the idea of elite and elitism.
Yes.
I am an elite, but I don't embrace elitism. Meaning, because of merit, I've gotten to certain places,
Yes.
but I don't like to define myself
Okay.
by
That.
everything that comes from those institutions or places. But I'm extremely privileged.
Yes.
And in life, you need two things. If you have privilege, power, and money, all the doors will be open unto you.
Yes.
So I have privilege, which has come to become power and eventually to end up becoming money.
Yes.
But just to go back to the story of Lenana, the motto of Lenana is nothing but the best. Meaning nihil praeter optimum in Latin. It's one of the only few schools in Kenya or Africa that has a Latin motto. And because the original language of the text,
I'm not sure if my
Used to be
school has
Latin.
Greek or Latin.
what is it? Can you remember?
Sindera Tagam.
Yeah, probably that sounds like Latin. Yeah, but the idea is that those schools they are the pioneering schools. So the British
It's
military,
a whole school.
exactly.
Yeah,
In
1950 or
in fact,
something.
Lenana is not the reason why it's called Lenana School and not Lenana High School.
Yes.
Is because it's an institution unto itself.
Yes.
We used to have kids from all over Kenya.
Yes.
And we're the only school when it was transferred to Ngong Road that has a railroad passing through it.
Yeah.
Meaning children from the white settler farmers from Nakuru,
Could come.
they used to be brought by train, and the train, even before it gets to Nairobi, CBD,
Yes.
it used to drop them at Lenana School. That is how big of a deal the privilege was. The other privilege was that we used to be washed for our clothes. So in my entire Lenana School career, I never washed my clothes. We used to have laundry machines, and the workers used to take the clothes twice a week.
I think I've heard that story.
It's a true story. So if you
Even
look
when I
at
was
my
in school,
hands,
yeah.
if you look at my hands,
Smooth as a...
these hands are for writing and for maybe holding cutlery only.
Yes.
So we were brought up in the form of English nobility.
Yes.
And that was a tradition.
Yes.
And we were brought up as the next leaders of the continent, of the country. And so they felt that cleaning things will be wasting our time. So we used to focus on academic work and on plays and on rhetoric. Like you are taught how to speak. You are taught how to play rugby or soccer or tennis or squash or cricket. So we were brought in that tradition.
Yes.
And we were also brought to pronounce things the right way.
Yes.
We were brought like young gentlemen, so to speak.
Yes.
And in any country, I know certain people sometimes focus on physics, chemistry, biology, and all other subjects.
Yes.
But in Lenana, they also focus on rhetoric. How do you speak? Do you speak clearly and with authority? Do you speak clearly and with persuasion?
Yes.
Do you know how to negotiate? Do you know how to lead with words? And then after that with actions? Is your word your bond? Hence the whole idea of nothing but the best. So that the whole boy in mind, soul, and body is set for all opportunities in the world. So that's how they were forming the Lenana boy in character and also in intellect. It was not just one without the other.
Yes.
Both of them worked well together like bread and butter. So we became all-rounded. And one of the most beautiful things we used to do is when we went to the chapel service, I think it used to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they used to ask me to read the Bible verse from the lectern. It was an elongated lectern made of floral, plain gold lectern. And that
I think we have read some of those.
Yes, and that was donated by, donated by King George VI.
Yes.
Who also built Kenyatta National Hospital, where I was born in 1978. So most of my life I did things on Ngong Road because I was born at KNH. I went to Lenana, which is also on Ngong Road. So all these things are on Ngong Road. But the kind of training Lenana gave us, we were trained and molded to be leaders of the world, not just leaders of Kenya, and to be ready for anything.
Yes.
And because of the expanse of Lenana, it's 250 acres. I became supremely self-confident and creative because I was mixing with boys from all over Kenya.
Yes.
From all
the cultures. Yes.
And so I developed a deep appreciation for Kenya as a nation and Kenya as a people.
Yes.
And even some of the boys from Pokot who never used to know how to use modern water closet. The teachers actually showed them how this water closet work and even how to use things like tissue paper.
Wow.
Even to use a fork or a knife.
But they're smart.
They are book smart.
Yes.
They scored all A's in their Kenyan Certificate of Primary Education.
Yes.
They're excellent in that, but they didn't know these rudiments of life because they had never even worn shorts or trousers or even belts.
And their cultures contributed mostly to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And but what I also appreciated a lot, we used to learn a lot of Maasai songs. Like Laleyo, Laleyo, Oye ho, Laleyo, 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 things like that. So even until now, in almost all the tribes of Kenya, I know their songs because we used to have house events, festivals where we competed against the other 10 houses. I was in Kenyatta House, which was next to the barrier. We never even had a gate those days because they believed any Lenana student should walk out of the barrier and just come back at the right time. So we're not
disciplined, you're gentlemen.
We're disciplined, we're gentlemen.
I've also heard that story in some way.
So we had the privilege between 4 and 6.
Yes.
You could even go to Nairobi CBD and come back as long as you came before supper, because supper was served strictly at from 6 to 6:20.
Yes.
And then you had to go for the preps at 7 p.m. up to 10 p.m.
Yes.
So the day began at 5 a.m. where you had to ring the bell.
Yeah.
So the boys had turns on who rings the bell to wake up each other every day. And then from 5 a.m. you ring the bell, then you wake up. The first thing you did was to open your windows so that you let in the fresh air.
Yes.
The second thing you then made...
This is for everyone.
For every boy, for all the 1,000 boys.
Yes.
So strictly, you'd open your window, mop your area where your bed is.
Yes.
Then go and do garden work.
Yes.
You water the plants and flowers.